Hey guys, welcome to another video by the Main Tutor Zone. Today we're going to be going over the basics of factoring. So just a review and an intro. So you guys know how to combine, okay? So you know how to distribute. So 4 times 3x is 12x, and 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. You guys know how to FOIL too. Negative 2x times 3x is negative 6x squared, and negative 2 times 1 is negative 2x, negative 2 times 3x is negative 6x, and negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Then you know how to combine like terms to get your final answer. Now we're basically doing it backwards. So you combined, you condensed, now you're going to expand by factoring. There's different methods for this. We're going to go over these 4 in this video. We're going to learn how to factor, basically pull a common factor out of all the terms. You're going to take one trinomial, which is 3 terms, and get 2 binomials out of it. So this is a trinomial, and then you'd end up with your 2 binomials. And then you'll learn how to use grouping. This is when you're going to get 2 binomials from a 4 terms. This is a 1, 2, 3 term. 4 term we have another one right here. And then we're going to learn how to do, then you're going to learn the special, so you learned special circumstances before, and we'll learn how to undo them later. So factoring, this is basically reverse distribution. So here, we did this, now we're going to go from here backwards. Okay, so you multiply before, so now we need to divide. So let's try it. So what do these 2 terms share? We have 10x and negative 25. Now, the way this is 10x minus 25, but when you're looking at terms, the sign before goes with the terms. This is 10x and negative 25 when you're doing math. So they both don't share x's, but they both share, we could take a 5 out of both of these, right? So we can take out a 5. So we're going to divide each of these by the factor, which is 5. Okay? So that gets us 2x minus 5. Now, this 5 doesn't go away. We still have to show that we have it, because 10x minus 25 is completely different from 2x minus 5. What we do is we write the factor on the outside and put your new one in parentheses. Now, doesn't this right here look exactly like you could distribute this back in? So that's what it should look like. Okay, now you can factor with any number of terms. This one is 3. So let's look to see what we have here. So good thing is to look at the numbers first. We have 12, 20, and 36. They're all even, so we could take out 2, but let's look for something bigger. 4 can go into all these, right? So we know one of them is going to be 4. Okay, and then what about x's? I got 4 x's here, 2 here, and 1 here. They all have at least 1 x. I can pull out all 1 x's. Okay, so if you're not comfortable with doing the math out, feel free to do the division out on the side. Okay, so you can visualize it. We have 3 terms, so 3 fractions, 3 division problems. Okay, so 12 divided by 4 is 3. X to the 4th divided by x is x to the 3rd. 20 divided by 4 is 5. And x to the 2nd divided by x is x. And negative 36 divided by 4 is negative 9, and x divided by x, those cancel. Okay? And if you ever see that, you could have gone farther, like something you could have pulled up more, you just do that, you just multiply. Okay, hold on, let me erase that. So take a second to pause that if you wanted to see that stuff. I'm going to erase this because I have a problem right here. Okay, now this is a little different. So you can factor out. So we factored out two things here, right? So you can factor out more than one variable too. So let's do this one. Let's look at our numbers first. So they got a negative 9 and 18. Both share 9 or negative 9. Whatever you want to pull out. Let's pull out 9. Okay, right over here. So let's pull out 9. And how many x's do they share? We got 3 x's here, 2 x's here. So they definitely both share 2. How many y's do they share? Do they share any y's? 4 y's here, 1 y here. I can pull out 1. And always know that you can only pull out the lowest amount that you have. Because if I pulled out 4 y's, I don't have 4 y's here to pull out. Okay, you always pull out whatever the smallest amount you have here, which is 1. That's the most you can pull out. Here, smallest x I had was 1, so I can only pull out 1x. Oh, and that x isn't there. Whoops. Just 9, because that x cancels. Okay. So pull out a y. So it helps you to do this, do it. And it always helps too, because then it can catch mistakes. Okay. So negative 9 divided by 9 is negative 1, or you can just make it just be a negative sign. X to the third divided by x to the second is x. Y to the fourth divided by y is y to the third. And 18 divided by 9 is 2. Those x's cancel and those y's cancel. So rewriting it all out, this is what we have. Okay? Now, pause the video. Time for our first practice. Okay, let's get to it. So, I can definitely take out a 7. I definitely take out 2 x's. Okay, so 7x squared, 7x squared. 7 divided by 7 is 1, so that's gone. And x, because we don't need to write a 1 coefficient, x to the third divided by x second is x. 21 divided by 7 is 3, and those x's cancel. So this is our answer. Okay, number 2. Let's see here. 24, 48, 80. 8 can go into all of those. Okay. Write it down here. 8. And then I got x, I got no x's here. So I actually can't pull out a variable on this one at all, because they don't all share the same variable. Can divide them all by 8. Okay, so 24 divided by 8 is 3, x to the third, minus 48 divided by 8 is 6, that x comes down. 80 divided by 8 is 10y. There we go. Next one, 24, 33, 27. I know that's going to be 3 right off the bat. They all share 3. Let's look at x's. I got 4 x's, 3 x's, and 1 x. So I can pull out 1 x for sure. Y's, 5 y's, 2 y's, 1 y. I can pull out a y. Okay. Make my division problems. 3xy, 3xy, 3xy. So 24 divided by 3 is 8. X to the fourth divided by x is x to the third. y to the 5th divided by y is y to the 4th. 33 divided by 3 is 11. X to the 3rd divided by x is x to the 2nd. Y to the 2nd divided by y is y. Minus 27 divided by 3 is 9. And those variables cancel out. There we are. And here, let's see. 12, 14. And they're both negative, so I could technically pull out a -2 or a 2. I'm going to pull out a -2, make this positive. Okay, so let's look here. I have x, x. I can pull out an x. I got y's. I can pull out a y to the 2nd. Now I got z's. I can pull out one z. Okay. -2x, y, 2nd z. -2, oh, whoops, x, y, 2nd z. So, okay, so let's do this. -12 divided by 2 by -2 is a positive 6. X squared minus, or divided by x is x. Y to the 3rd divided by y to the 2nd is y. Z to the 2nd divided by z is z. And -14 divided by -2 is a positive 7. And x divided by x, those cancel. My y's cancel, my z's cancel. That's what I got. Now, if you had done a positive 2, it would have been the same thing. It's just your signs would have changed. So either of these is the right thing because you're still doing a negative times a positive, just you'd end up having this. Okay, either are the same. You still have a negative times a positive, negative times positive. Okay, so now we're going to move on to pulling so we're getting two binomials from a trinomial. Basically reverse FOIL. So this is the setup for trinomials. You have ax squared plus bx plus c. So don't forget that a, b, and c are what we call coefficients. It's the number in front of it. So if we have 2x, 2 is the coefficient. I mean, we have 2x. Okay? So this is just an example of FOIL. We did x times x, get x squared, x times 4, 4x, 7 times x, get 7x, and 7 times 4 is 28. So do you see how our x goes right here? And then our 4 plus 7x becomes 11x, and our 28 moves over. So when we factor, what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out what these numbers are. We're given this and be like, okay, so I got to figure out what these two numbers are because as we saw here, those two numbers multiply to get 28. They add to get 11. Okay, so those two numbers multiply to get C. Okay, M and N multiply to get C right here, and they add to get B. So the biggest thing to know here is that it's actually really easy. Some students look at it and go, oh no, this is hard. But you got to look. Just remember how signed numbers interact. Okay, that's key. So when you're looking at C, so whoops, ax plus b, x plus c. So when you're looking at C, don't forget that a positive, because don't forget that C is m times n, right? So positive times a positive is a positive, and negative times a negative is a positive, and a positive times a negative is a negative. So knowing if this is positive or negative right there tells you if you have same signs or different signs. So if you have a plus 12, that means you got either two positives or two negatives, okay? Or if you have a negative 12, then you know you have a negative and a positive. That's something you know right off the bat, okay? So what if you get a positive 12? We don't know which is which, but B helps us, okay? If you have positive C's, okay, so if you have, let's say, x squared plus 7x plus 12, okay, if you have a positive C, B's sign is the sign of both numbers, okay? So positive 12 means it's going to be one of these. Oh, but this is a positive, so it's going to be two positive numbers. If you had this, positive 12, so both are the same signs, but this is a negative, so it means both my numbers are going to be negative, okay? Now, if I have a negative C, so let's say I had x squared, let's keep a 12, negative, whoops, x minus 12. So minus 12 means they're going to be opposite signs, okay? So how do I know which is the bigger number? B's sign is the bigger number because when we have opposite signs and we add, we really subtract, right? Okay, so that's how you know which is the bigger sign. So let's do this, okay? So don't forget that M and N, they multiply to get C and they add to get B. So that's their two things. So let's look here. We have 18. What numbers can add up, can multiply to 18? 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6, right? Now we got to look here. Which of, and okay, oh, and also let's look. I got a positive 18, so the signs are the same, and it's positive, so we have a positive, two positive numbers here. So which of these add up to 11? That's 19, that's out. 2 plus 9 is 11. Oh, and that's 6, that's 9, so that's out. So we know that our numbers are 2 and 9. So it's x plus 2 and x plus 9. Easy as that. Okay, let's look at our next one. Okay, so we got a negative 20. So that means they're going to be opposite signs. And they're positive, so that means the bigger of the two numbers is going to be positive. Okay, so set it up. We know one's going to be positive, what's going to be negative. So let's look at the factors of 20. 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. So which one of these right off the bat looks like, and know that these are, that the smaller numbers are negative, bigger ones are positive. So 20 plus negative 1 is 19. Nope. 10 plus negative 2 is 8. Nope. 5 plus negative 4. Oh, that's 1. So it's those ones. Okay, done. Okay, now let's look at this one. Positive sign means they're going to be the same. It's going to be negative numbers, so it's negative times a negative. Okay, we need them to add up to 13 and 42. So we got 1 and 42, 2 and 21, 6 and 7. Oh, right off the bat, I know that 6 and 7 add up to 13. So there we go. Okay. Now, last example. They're going to multiply to 40 and they're negative. So opposite signs. And negative, so means negative is going to be the bigger number. And when I set it up, I just put the bigger number over here so I always know which is which. So factors of 40. And if you don't need to write out the factors, you can figure it out real quick. That's great. Once you get to that point, that's good mental math. But until then, write it out like this. Whoops, that's 5. Sorry, 5 and 8. Okay, so let's see here. And know that the bigger number is the negative number. Okay, that's negative 39. Not that. That's negative 18. Not that. That's negative 6. Not that. Oh, but that's negative 3 because 5, negative 8 plus 5 is negative 3. There we are. Okay, so now pause the video and do it out. Write out your factors if you need to. Okay, so set up my things. Negative 40 means we opposite signs. The negative sign is the bigger sign. Okay. So two numbers that add 40 and get negative 6. I think it's going to be 10, negative 10, and 4. It's 10 plus negative 10 plus positive 4 is 6. Is negative 6. Okay, next one. Positive, same signs. Positive B means they're both going to be positive. So 10 plus 8, or 10 times 8 will definitely give me 80 and get me 18. There we are. Okay, positive number, same signs. Negative. So 20, 4, and 5 definitely equal 9. There we go. And here, positive number and opposite sign, or in negatives. So 27, it's either 1 and 27 or 3 or 9, and 3 plus 9 is 12. Okay, let's keep going. Now, 1x squared isn't 1x squared. What does that mean? We would have problems with the coefficient is 1, when the second's coefficient is 1. Now this is a problem, this is an example from the beginning here. So negative 6 is definitely not coefficient of 1. It's more complicated to find the two binomials because now we have to find this number and this number too. And as you notice here, negative 2x times negative 3x gets me negative 6x squared. So, but then also that negative 2 affects this number, and that 3 affects this also. So u and v, the first two numbers, get me this. Last numbers get me that. Okay? But now u and v also fidget in there. Now we got to find four numbers, the coefficient of the two x's and the two numbers from before. These four combine to make b. So different ways to solve this. There's an expanded version of what we just did. There's something called the AC method. It's a different take on the expanded version using grouping. And the tic-tac-toe method, which is version I'm going to show you. If you want to see the other two methods, there's great videos online. The tic-tac-toe method, I think is easiest, quickest, least of a headache to do. So first off, So we're going to solve this, okay? So from our previous one, we know that it's going to be negative 2x minus 2 and 3x plus 1, okay? So we're going to do it with this method to show that's what it is. Okay, get back to where we are. So you're going to make a grid, okay? And you're going to put the corresponding coefficients in the correct spots. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a right here, and a is negative 6. And then we're going to put c right here, which is negative 8. And don't forget, those signs go with the terms, okay? Oh, whoops, and I did that wrong. That's why it's always good to show your work, because if you mess up, your teacher will see. C, that's negative 2. Sorry. And then you're going to do a times c. So negative 2 times, so negative 6 times negative 2 is, I always do that, positive 12. Okay? Now, we're going to find, so in these two spots right here, we're going to find two numbers that add up to c, we multiplied to get ac. Okay? So we need to multiply to get AC. AC is positive. Okay? So which means we're going to need two separate signs. Okay? Or the two of the same sign. Sorry. Okay, so it looks like I actually made a typo. Um, this should not be C, this should be B, okay? So they're going to add up to equal B, which is negative 8, okay? So they're going to add up to negative 8 and multiply out to be B, okay? So we have a positive 12, which means they're going to be the same signs, and negatives are going to be both negative. So negative 6 and negative 2 will work, and they can go into any spot, okay? So next thing we're going to do is figure out, we're going to go to this square. We're going to figure out what numbers the biggest factor that negative 6 and negative 2 share, which is negative 2. And then we're going to multiply here to figure out what negative 2 times what gets me negative 6, and that's going to be 3. Okay, so sorry, I didn't press the screen. So right here, we found a factor of A. So we need to figure out factor of what A and bottom right do. Okay, and then we need to figure out what this square times this square gets me negative 6. Okay, that's where we found our 3. And then we're going to find the missing number here. And we do that by doing 3 times what gets me negative 6. And that's negative 2. Okay, here, it's the same thing. Negative 2 times 3 gets me negative 6. And now same thing here. Negative 2 times what gets me negative 2, and that's 1. Okay? We found the missing square. And then we're going to make two binomials out of this. Okay? So we have 3x plus 1 times negative 2x times negative 2. And that was the same thing we had before. Okay? So let's try it again. Okay, so we're going to draw our stuff out. We're going to put A here, which is 3, C here, which is -5, okay, and A times C, so 3 times -5 is -15. So now we got to find numbers that add up to B, which is -2, and multiply to get -15. So negative number going to be opposite signs. Bigger number is going to be -2. We're going to have a negative here and a positive here. So let's see. 1 and 15 or 3 and 5. And the bigger number is negatives. Right off the bat, I know that -5 plus 3 is 15. So I'm going to have that. Okay. Now, next step was in this square, we find common factor between 3 and 3. And that's 3. Easy. Then our next step was to figure out 3 times what gets me 3. And that's 1. And then here we went 1 times what gets me -5. -5. And then 3 times what gets me 3. 1. Okay, and then we made our binomials this way. X plus 1 and 3x minus 5. Okay, and if you wanted to check, you can do it backwards. 3x times 3x is 3x squared. That matches. X times -5 is -5x. 1 times 3x is plus 3x. And 1 times -5 is -5. And let's combine like terms. That becomes -2x minus 5. Same answer. Okay, let's do it again. So we put A here, which is 2, C here, which is -9, and AC here, which is 2 times -9 is -18, and B is 3. So we got to find two numbers that multiply to AC and add up to B. So add up to B, so they got to add up to 3, and they need to multiply to AC, which is -18. So negative number, opposite signs, bigger sign's going to be 3. Okay. So multiples of, or numbers of 18, 1 and 18. Keep in mind that the bigger number is going to be positive. -2 and 9, -3 and 6. So this is going to be 17, 7, and 3. Oh, right here. So we know it's going to be 6 and -3. Okay. So next step is to find a factor that both 2 and -3 share. They don't share anything except 1, because everything always shares 1. So good. Got that. Now we got to figure out what 1 times what gets me 2. 1 times 2 gets me 2. And then 2 times what gets me 6? 3. And then 1 times what gets me -3? -3. So make our binomials here. This is always the x column if you haven't figured it out. 2x minus 3. And this one, 1x or x is 3. Okay, if we want to do it back out, 2x times x is 2x squared. That matches. 2x times 3 is 6x. -3 times x is -3x. And -3 times 3 is -9. Combine like terms, and you get the same thing. Okay? Now try these 3 really quick by yourself. Pause the video. Come back when you're ready. Okay. Okay, so A goes here, C goes here, and AC goes here. 3 times 4 is 12. They got to multiply to get to 12, and they got to add up to B, which is negative 8. So positive number, same signs. They're both going to be negative because B is negative. So two numbers that add up to 8 set is 6 and 2, which 6 and 2 is 12. So there we go. Find a number that 3 and 2 both share. 3 and negative 2 both share, which is nothing. So it'll be 1. 1 times what gets me 3? 3. 3 times negative 2 gets me negative 6. And 1 times negative 2 gets me negative 2. So go this way. 3x minus 2 and x minus 2. Okay. Always good idea to circle the answer so your teacher can find it fast on your page. Let's do it again. A goes here, C goes here, times them, that's 60, and B is 19. Two numbers that gotta multiply to 60 and add up to 19. Both are positive. And right quick, see. We got 1 and 60, 2 and 30. 3 and 20. 4 and 15. 5 and 12. 6 and 10. And that's it. So we need something that adds up to 19. That's 61, that's 32, that's 23. Oh, that's 19 right there. So it's 4 and 15. Okay. So two numbers that 5. So a number that 5 and 15 both share is 5. 5 times 1 gets me 5. 1 times 4 gets me 4. And 5 times 3 gets me 15. So answer is 5x plus 4 and 1x or x plus. Last one. A goes here, which is 7. C goes here, which is 28. And 7 times 28, which I don't know off the top of my head. 8 times 7 is, whoops, that's 56. 7 times 2 is 14. 14 plus 5 is 196. This is a big one. Okay. Okay, so we got to get two numbers that add up to 196, add up to 53. So at least they're going to be positive and they're going to be the same sign. So that's easy. Just got to find stuff that adds up. Okay, so I'm thinking it's going to be in the middle. Get to 196. We know it's 1 and 196. Let's see here. 2 and 98. That's not going to work. Four and 49. Right off the bat, that's going to be what it is. 4 and 49 gets me 53. Okay, so what number does 7, 49 share? 7. Awesome. 7 times what gets me 7? 1. 1 times what gets me 4? 4. 7 times what gets me 49? 7. So there we go. So we have x plus 7 and 7x plus 4. And it does not matter which order you write these in. Okay? Okay. Okay, so we're on to grouping. This is a method for a 4-term polynomial. We're going to use the factoring method, but with a twist. Okay, so first step, look at the first two terms and find a common factor. So just factoring. Okay, so I know that I got 12 and 9, that's going to be 3. And x is x to the third, x second, that's going to be x to the second. Okay, perfect. So we're going to factor out x, 3x the second from this one. Okay, so 12 divided by 3 is 4, x to the second divided by x to the third divided by x to the second is x, and negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3, and the x's cancel out. And then add on this bit. Okay, ooh, that looks really close. Let's see. Now what we're going to do is we're going to try to pull out a factor from this second pair that'll make this match this. It already matches, so what do I pull out? Anything times 1 is itself, right? So let's do that. Plus 1 for x minus 3. Okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite these out. So we know one of them is going to be 4x minus 3. And then we take this and make it into one big thing. So 3x squared plus 1. Okay? So you see how we pulled something out in the first one, and then we got this one to match and made one and used the second one to make the other. So let's do it again. So let's look here. Can I pull any numbers out? No. Can I pull x's out? I can pull out 2 x's. Okay. Okay, so 2x, x to the third divided by x to the second, plus those cancel, 5. Okay, plus 6x plus 15. So now I gotta pull something out that's gonna make this match 2x to the fifth. So what can I pull out? Well, to get 2x to match 6x, I gotta pull out 3. I pull out 3 here, I will, and I'll get my 5. So that's perfect. We're gonna divide them both by 3. Okay, so we have x squared 2x plus 5. We're going to pull out a 3, plus 3, sorry. 6x divided by 3 is 2x plus 5. So do you see how these match? So now pull that down. And then we're going to do x squared plus 3. And that's our two things. Okay, let's try this one. Okay, now we got an extra variable in here, so we got to keep that in mind. Okay, so what can I pull out here? Numbers. Very 5 and 5. I can pull out a 5. And I can pull out an x in both of them. So let's do that. Divide by 5x. 35 divided by 5 is 7. X's cancel. I'm left with y. Minus that cancels. That cancels. That means it's just straight up 1, right? Anything over itself is 1. Okay. So minus 56. Whoops. Y plus 8. So now I got to get 56y plus 8 to look like negative, or get to look like 7y minus 1. So first up, I got a negative 56y. How can I get negative 56y to look like 7y? I got to divide it by negative 8, right? Okay. So we'll put negative 8 over here to keep it in our minds. And then how would I get 8 to look like negative 1? I divide it by negative 8. So negative 8 works for both of them. So negative 8. Negative 56 divided by negative 8 is a positive 7. the y stays. And 8 divided by negative 8 is negative 1. Perfect. We got those to match. So bring down your 7y minus 1. And we got 5x minus 8. Just like that. Okay? So try these really quick. Come back when you're ready. Okay. So first group, I can take out an x squared. That gets me x minus 1. That cancels. Plus 2x minus 2. Didn't put that there. Okay. How do I get that to x minus 1? Just divide off of 2. So that's going to be 2. 2x divided by 2 is x, and negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. Perfect. They match. You always know that if you get these to match, it means you did it right. So x squared plus 2. Okay. Over here, 5x to the third and minus 10x to the second. I pull out a 5 from each and x squared from each. Okay. Draw a line there so we don't get confused. 5x squared. So the 5's cancel. I'm left with the x. Minus 10 divided by 5 is 2, and the x's cancel. Plus 3x minus 6. How do I get that to look like that? Looks like I got to divide it by 3 on both of these. So 5x squared, x minus 2. Pull out my 3. 3x divided by 3 is x, and negative 6 divided by 2 by 3 is negative 2. Perfect, they match. And 5x squared, so that's a plus 3. Plus 3. Okay, last one. We're almost at the end, guys. We got one more section after this, I believe, if I remember right. Okay. So 12 and 28. Pull a 4 out of both of those. And I can pull an x out of both of those. So I got 4x. 12 divided by 4 is 3. X's cancel. Y comes down. Negative 28 divided by 4 is negative 7. X's cancel out. Minus 15y plus 35. Okay, so I need to get this down to a 3. Divide that by 5. Oh, but it's negative here. So negative 15 down to a 3. So I got to divide that by negative 5. And negative 5 will get me a negative 7. Perfect. 4x, 3y. Whoops, that's minus 7. And negative 15 divided by a negative, oops, hold on, pull out the 5 there. Negative 15 divided by negative 5 is a positive 3. Y comes down. Positive 35 divided by negative 5 is a negative 7. It matches. We are good. And we got 4x minus 5. There we go. Not that hard. Now, remember I said that we had talked about special circumstances? Remember the tricks we did when foiling special binomials? We can use these to help us factor too. Makes life a whole lot easier. Difference of squares. That was when you had these things right here, okay, are called conjugates. Okay, A plus B and A minus B. Okay, and when you multiply these out, so if we had, what it does is that the middle terms, that B cancels itself out. So we end up with A squared minus B squared. Okay, so let's try to factor this out. We're going to have Same thing, one's going to be positive, one's going to be negative. So a squared here, so I have x squared, so that must mean these are both x's. And the square root of 64 is 8. So bam, easy as that. Okay, so x times x is x squared. So I'll just show you. X times x is x squared. X times negative 8 is negative 8x. 8 times x is 8x. And 8 times negative 8 is negative 64. So when we combine like terms, you see how these cancel out? And we're left with that. Okay? So let's try it again. This looks a little more complicated. It's really not. Okay, one's going to be positive, one's going to be negative. Doesn't matter which order you put them in. So what's this one squared? What's 25? The square root of 25? 5. And square root of x squared is x. Boom. And square root of 144? Oh, just like that. You did it. Okay? Now, another special one we had was perfect squares. That was when you had a plus b squared got you a squared plus 2ab plus b squared, or the same thing, but you had a minus here. So just keep in mind that the sign of the middle term, positive, positive, or negative, negative. It's going to match the sign of the binomial. So that's your trick. So you don't have to worry about what's positive and what is negative. So you have to do a test, though, to see if a trinomial is a perfect square. First and last terms have to be a perfect square. As you see here, perfect square, perfect square. Middle terms have to be 2 times a times b. Okay, so times a, so do a times b and then double it. Okay, and if either of those fail, it's not a perfect square. So say these two are perfect squares, but then this isn't. It's not a perfect square. Or if this is a perfect square, but this isn't a perfect square, this is 2 plus times a times b. It's not a perfect square. Okay, so let's do this. And don't forget our test. You always test first. Okay? Okay. Is 16x squared a perfect square? Yes. 4 perfect square? Yes. Now let's see if this is 2ab, which a would be what? 4x? Okay. Gotta be that, and this will be 2. So that would be 2 times 4 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. So we should have started with 16x. Do you have 16x? No. This is not a perfect square. We're done. So let's check this one. Is this perfect square? Yes. 64 perfect square? Yes. Let's see, is this 2 times x times 8? 2 times x is 2x times 8 is 16x. We are good. So now the sign is going to match here, which is that, which is going to be negative. The square of the first term is x, and the square of this one is 8. Done. Okay, let's do this one. Let's check the test. 81 x squared, is this a perfect square? Yes, because it'd be 9x. It's always helpful to write it up here because you're going to need it anyway to solve your answer. 36 perfect square? Yes, it's 6. So now this should be 2 times 9x times 6. Let's see. 9 times 6 is 54. Is this 54 times 2? Well, that's a plus sign. Let's check. 4 and 4 is 8, and 5 and 5 is 10. Yes, it is. Okay? So let's do it out. We don't need to do any more than this. Don't forget your square. Be positive. So we just know the reason why I said write that. You just pull down your answers, you're done. Easy as that. Okay, now we're going to combine perfect squares, difference of squares into one practice. So do this really quick. Pause your video, come back. Just warning you, 3 and 4 are gonna make you think. Okay? Hint, you gotta do something before you do the special trick. Okay, so let's do this one. It's 3 terms. That means it's gonna be a perfect square one. Okay, so if you see 2 terms, it's a difference of squares. Perfect square is 3 terms. So let's do our test. Is the first one a perfect square? So that will be 2x. Yes, perfect square. 1 is perfect square. It's 1. Now, is this 2 times 2x times 1? Let's see. 2 times 2x is 4x. Times 1 is 4x. Perfect. So let's do it out. It's going to be negative. Bring down our 2x. Bring down our 1. Golden, done. Now here, there's 2. So this is going to be difference of squares. Okay, so that means we have 2. One's going to be negative, one's going to be positive. I said, doesn't matter which goes first. So the square root of 4x squared is 2x. That 2x goes here. And 25y, 5 and y. 25y squared, 5 and y. Done. Perfect. Okay. Now, I said these two were tricky. Now the hint, now if you haven't figured it out, you're gonna need to actually, sometimes with factoring, which we'll get into a later video into more depth, is sometimes you need to combine methods to get to where you need to go. So the hint for both these is to pull something out before we go. So now you know to pull something out of both these, supposed to factor something out before, pause the video and try it then. Okay, so here, I'm going to factor out a 2. Okay, let's just see what happens when I factor out a 2. Because this is obviously difference of squares. But 98 and 200 are not perfect squares. But 49 and 100 are. So if I pull out 2, well, that makes that 49x squared and 100. Now I can do it. Now I got to keep that 2 hanging around because it is part of the equation, right? So when I do it, I just keep that 2 to the side. So difference of squares, 1 positive, 1 negative. Again, doesn't matter which way order you do it. 49x squared, square root of that is 7x. And 100 is 10, just like that. Okay, now if you figured out, okay, I gotta pull something out to make it easier, pull it out. Because we don't have perfect squares. 200 isn't a perfect square, 8 isn't. So what can I pull out to make the perfect squares? And hint, you might want to do something with your x's too. Okay, so I'm going to pull out a 2 and an x squared. Because smaller numbers, easier to do. Okay, so 200 divided by 2, so right over here. 200 divided by 2 is 100, perfect square. X squared divided by x2 is x to the second, which, mind you, x to the fourth is a perfect square, but we want to get it all the way down. 800 or 80 divided by 2 is 40. We get down to an x, and 8 divided by 2 is 4, and those cancel out. Now let's run our test. 100x squared, perfect square? Yes, it is 10x. 4 perfect square? Yes, the square root of it is 2. So is this 2 times 10x times 2. 2 times 10x is 20x times 2 is 40x. We are good. So bring that down, because don't forget that 2x squared is part of our equation. 10x, and it's positive. That's positive. And 2 from that is 4. Okay, if you've gotten this far, congratulations, because that's the end of the video. But please come. So we just learned how to factor, and factoring is the first step in how to solve quad quadratics. So we're gonna, in our next video, we're gonna learn how to solve these using the methods that we just did. Plus, you're gonna learn how to complete the square, what a discriminant is and why we need to know it, and the amazing quadratic formula. I'll see you guys for the second video. Bye.